The palace is in chaos. Prince Harry has dropped a truth bomb so explosive it's shaken Buckingham to its core. With a single interview, he reignited old wounds and forced the crown's hand. Now, Queen Camilla's title is gone, and the monarchy may never look the same again. The shocking revelation that shook the palace. It started with a sentence. One bold, searing line from Prince Harry. "My mother was the queen, and no one bows when Camilla walks in." That line, raw and deliberate, didn't just cause gasps. It lit a fuse under Buckingham Palace itself. In an instant, decades of buried tension surfaced, and the woman once quietly crowned queen consort stood exposed. Palace corridors buzzed. Royal aides scrambled to control the damage as social media exploded. News anchors looped the clip, dissecting every word. The world listened, stunned. It wasn't just a jab. It was a dethroning in spirit, if not yet in title. The walls of protocol, secrecy, and tradition had been breached, not by tabloids or scandal chasers, but by the king's own son. And that made all the difference. Behind palace gates, meetings turned frantic. Charles reportedly refused to speak to Harry. Camilla, once firm and composed in public, began appearing visibly shaken. Sources whispered that some senior royals questioned whether Camilla's reign had ever truly been accepted. "Authority begins to crumble, not with a bang but a whisper," one aide murmured. The power behind Harry's words wasn't just in the past. It was in what they reignited. Princess Diana's legacy. The woman still remembered as the people's princess was once again at the center of the monarchy, not through ceremony, but through truth. And for Camilla, that truth arrived like a thunderclap. Princess Anne pulls back the curtain. No one expected Anne to weigh in, but then she did, and her words landed like stone. In a moment, charged with quiet strength, Princess Anne refused to call Camilla queen. The effect was immediate. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Harry or Diana. This was about the very fabric of the monarchy, and Anne had just ripped it open. Anne has always been known for her stoicism, her unflinching commitment to the crown. But this was different. "Camilla is unfit to hold the royal title," she reportedly stated behind closed doors. Her voice didn't tremble. Her stance didn't waver. And in those few, pointed words, she drew a line that no one could ignore. For decades, Anne played by the rules. Now she was rewriting them. Public reactions swelled. Commentators applauded her clarity. Royal historians pointed to her as a defender of Queen Elizabeth's legacy. In Anne's eyes, tradition was being bent too far, and she was the one willing to snap it back into place. Some even compared her to Elizabeth I, stern and unyielding, but utterly loyal to the institution. Inside the palace, tension hardened. Lines were no longer blurred. They were bold, unmistakable. Anne's move wasn't loud, but it was deliberate, and it would fuel the next wave of change. Lady Kate's silent rebellion. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't even a quote. It was a moment, a pause, a glance, a decision not to bow. During the coronation dinner, as Camilla entered in full regalia, Lady Catherine met her eyes and simply nodded. The traditional curtsy? Absent. That absence said everything. To the casual observer, it might have looked like nothing. But royal watchers knew. This was a statement. Kate, future queen consort herself, had just sided, silently, firmly, with Anne and the memory of Diana. Within hours, photos flooded the press. social media boiled with debate. Was it disrespect or quiet defiance? Experts asked. But the truth was clearer than any analysis. Catherine was speaking without words, and people were listening. It was a message, one palace insider claimed, and it was received. What made the moment more powerful was its subtlety. Catherine didn't need to raise her voice. Her restraint amplified her stance. She, like Anne, saw that something was unraveling, and instead of resisting it, she guided it forward with poise. As Camilla watched, the signal couldn't have been more stark. The future of the crown had just blinked and turned away. The history that hangs over Camilla. No matter how much time passes, some shadows never fade. Camilla's past with King Charles has long been a wound that the public refuses to forget. And now, with Harry pulling the curtain back, that past surged forward again, louder, harsher, undeniable. She was the third person in their marriage, Diana once said, and that quote echoed louder than ever. Flashbacks flooded the media. Images of Diana's grace, her heartbreak, her global connection. People remembered, and they judged. Camilla's rise to queen consort never sat easily with a generation. That saw Diana as the rightful queen. Now that quiet discomfort was erupting into vocal outrage. Harry's comments reopened wounds that never fully healed. Old supporters of Diana rallied online. Campaigns reignited. Even former palace staff began speaking, off the record but passionately, about the injustice of Camilla's title. And suddenly, her crown felt heavier than ever. Within palace walls, tension built. Allies became scarce. Support wavered. Camilla's carefully crafted public image, dutiful, modern, compassionate, began to blur. The ghost of Diana loomed over every event, every photo op. No matter how elegant the setting, the past now sat at the table too. Old royal feuds sweet in modern times. Scandal isn't new to the monarchy. From Henry VIII's divorces to Edward VIII's abdication, royal drama is practically its own tradition. But what's unfolding now feels different, because the fight is no longer about policy or protocol. It's personal. Camilla's position echoes old rivalries. Anne's challenge mirrors past conflicts between sisters and heirs. And the tension brewing now, it carries the same weight, but modernized, digitized, televised. What once happened in whispers now trends on Twitter. What once stayed inside the palace walls now plays out on global stages. Buckingham has become a chessboard where loyalty, legacy, and ambition all collide. Observers note that the monarchy is at a cultural crossroads. Should the crown evolve or hold the line? In this atmosphere, Camilla's title isn't just ceremonial, it's symbolic. Her retention or removal will define whether the monarchy chooses continuity or change. As more truths surface and more voices rise, the game is shifting. And Camilla? She may be wearing the crown, but she's standing on unstable ground. Camilla's rise fueled by scandal and duty. Camilla Parker Bowles didn't climb to the throne on the back of fairy tales. Her journey was one of shadows, whispers, and rehabilitation. When she became queen consort in 2022, the title itself felt like a compromise between legacy and loyalty. To some, she had earned it. To others, she had taken what never belonged to her. Her rise was never smooth. For years, she remained in the background, supporting Charles, championing charities, keeping her head down. Public appearances were carefully orchestrated. The royal family worked overtime to reshape her image, from the other woman to the dutiful partner. It seemed for a moment that the transformation had succeeded. But when Harry spoke, all that carefully built acceptance crumbled like old plaster. His words didn't just target Camilla. They reminded the world of everything she'd tried to bury. The affair, the pain, the crown that came too late, and at too high a cost. Suddenly, her presence as queen wasn't seen as earned. It was seen as borrowed. And yet, Camilla still has defenders. Her charitable record is long, touching everything from literacy programs to domestic violence awareness. She brought modern values to an institution often stuck in its own grandeur. But now, duty isn't enough. The public is asking, does service redeem betrayal? Can time erase what it never truly healed? That's the question the monarchy now wrestles with. Camilla isn't just a symbol. She's a test of whether the crown is about merit or simply proximity. Harry and Meghan's shadow looms large. The ripple started with an interview, but it was years of silence, exile, and confrontation that built the storm. Prince Harry and Meghan's departure from royal duties shattered an age-old myth that silence meant loyalty and privacy meant peace. By stepping away, Harry created a space outside the palace gates, and from that distance, he could finally speak. His revelations about his family, particularly about Camilla, weren't impulsive. They were strategic, deliberate, and deeply personal. Camilla's position, already precarious, began to tremble. Because Harry didn't just question her title, he questioned the system that granted it. He accused her of manipulating the press, of using him and Meghan to protect her image. These weren't vague allegations, they were lightning strikes. And Meghan? Her mere presence intensified the rift. Her openness about mental health, racism, and the cold indifference of royal life gave context to Harry's fight. Together, they formed a mirror, reflecting everything the monarchy tried to suppress. And in that mirror, Camilla stood front and center. The royal family may have hoped distance would soften the impact, but instead, it sharpened it. From across oceans, Harry and Meghan's voices are louder than ever, and Camilla is the one left bracing for every word. Symbolic gestures and power moves. In royal circles, silence speaks volumes, and lately, it's been speaking, loudly. Every curtsy not given, every nod instead of a bow, every glance away from Camilla is now treated like a headline. But these aren't mere social cues. They're power moves wrapped in etiquette. Princess Anne's reserved body language, Catherine's refusal to curtsy, even William's carefully measured distance during public events. They all add up to a silent rebellion, not against the monarchy, but against what they believe taints it. Within the palace, insiders say these gestures are calculated, not accidental. No one in the royal family makes a public move without intent. And lately those moves are reading like quiet acts of resistance. One aide described it best. It's not what they say, it's how they stand. Camilla, once the recipient of ceremonial deference, now receives formal neutrality. No hostility, just absence. And that absence is louder than applause. In a world ruled by symbolism, the queen consort may be wearing the crown, but her authority is being unraveled in plain sight. Charles faces a family crisis. King Charles has weathered many storms, public scrutiny, tabloid wars, and decades of painful personal evolution. But this moment feels different. It isn't just a crisis of optics or press spin. It's a full-blown internal reckoning. His crown may sit securely atop his head, but his family is quietly falling apart, tugged in opposite directions by loyalty, tradition, and unfinished truths. At the center of the storm stands Queen Camilla, once his secret love, now his public partner. But with every new wave of scrutiny, every subtle royal gesture of defiance, her title teeters on a fragile edge. The people are questioning it. The press is dissecting it. And inside palace walls, the silence around it is growing heavier. Charles faces an impossible choice. On one side is Camilla, the woman who stood beside him in the darkest years, who survived public hatred and never asked to be adored, only accepted. She's not just his consort, she's his history. But on the other side stands the ghost of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, the very embodiment of duty and composure. Her legacy whispers in every portrait, echoes in every ceremonial hall. Upholding tradition wasn't just her practice, it was her principle. And now her daughter, Princess Anne, fierce and principled, has stepped forward as her moral torchbearer, boldly calling Camilla's role into question. Then there's William and Kate, the future monarchs, modern, composed, and growing more assertive with each appearance. Their quiet withdrawal from traditional deference toward Camilla speaks volumes. The younger generation isn't just standing still, they're redrawing lines. Their subtle resistance is redefining what royalty looks like in the 21st century. And on the edges of it all, there's Harry. His voice, blisteringly honest, unforgiving, still reverberates. His comments about Camilla, his defense of Diana, and his open challenges to the institution have added fire to an already simmering pot. Whether he intended to or not, Harry cracked the image of a unified royal front, leaving Charles with wounds both personal and political. Behind closed doors, palace aides described the king as exhausted, not from physical strain, but from the emotional weight of trying to reconcile love with duty, family with legacy. Every decision he makes now will be read not just by historians, but by millions, watching in real time. And the hardest part? There's no easy answer. If he chooses Camilla, he may alienate those clinging to the ideals of Diana and Elizabeth. If he yields to public pressure, he risks unraveling a relationship that has defined his adult life. So the question hovers: will King Charles defend his queen or recalibrate the monarchy for the sake of peace? Because no matter what he chooses, the kingdom will feel the ripple. And history, ever watchful, is already sharpening its pen. The price of tradition in a changing world. The British monarchy has always been a delicate balancing act, a dance between heritage and modernity, between the weight of centuries and the expectations of today. It's built on ritual, upheld by symbolism, and preserved through careful adherence to roles, titles, and decorum. But something fundamental is shifting, and in this moment, it's no longer just about elegance or legacy. It's about survival. And Camilla's title may be the first major casualty of that change. Tradition once felt sacred, quiet, unshakable, the lifeblood of the institution. But now, to many, it looks more like a polished cage, one that resists progress and clings too tightly to outdated hierarchies. The public doesn't just want smiling royals at garden parties. They want answers. They want accountability. And above all, they want a monarchy that reflects the values of justice, transparency, and emotional truth. Camilla's position, queen consort, should have been a symbol of reconciliation and renewal, but instead, it's become a flashpoint. Her every appearance is scrutinized. Her history is never far behind her. And no matter how many charity engagements she attends, there's a lingering sense that her title was inherited not through respect, but through perseverance, and maybe even manipulation. This isn't about personality, it's about optics. It's about what her reign represents. For many, it revives the pain of Princess Diana's betrayal. It highlights a system where titles are passed like heirlooms, even when public trust isn't. Every tiara, every ribbon, every nod from courtiers becomes a debate over legitimacy. The palace now faces a defining question. Is tradition worth preserving when it alienates the very people it hopes to inspire? If it holds on too tightly, it risks becoming irrelevant in the eyes of a generation that values openness over ceremony. But if it lets go too quickly, it risks unraveling the very structure that has sustained it for more than 1,000 years. And so Camilla stands at the center of this storm. Her crown is no longer just ornamental. It's become a litmus test, a measure of how far the monarchy is willing to go to protect its image, even when the winds of change howl at the gates. Her title is not just a name, it's a symbol of what the monarchy will tolerate, what it will defend, and what it may finally have to let go. And right now, that symbol is being tested like never before. Because in the new world taking shape outside the palace walls, tradition isn't enough. It must be earned, over and over again. Public outcry and divided opinions. As Prince Harry's revelations echoed across the globe and royal tensions simmered inside Buckingham Palace, the public responded, and they did so loudly. From TikTok to tabloid columns, from pub conversations to political debates, the question of Camilla's title ignited a cultural storm. Polls show a dramatic generational divide. Younger Britons overwhelmingly critical. Older generations more hesitant, clinging to tradition. One thing became clear. The monarchy could no longer ignore the court of public opinion. #Camilla controversy began trending within hours. Videos of Diana resurfaced, gathering millions of views. "She should have been queen," one commenter posted under a clip of Diana's 1995 interview, an opinion that thousands echoed. Others defended Camilla, citing her years of quiet service and commitment to royal duty. But the tide was turning, and sympathy alone wasn't enough to anchor a crown. What shocked many inside the palace wasn't the volume of backlash, it was the emotional intensity. People weren't just questioning Camilla's title, they were revisiting old grief, old betrayal, and asking if justice had ever really been served. Every emotional wound the monarchy thought had healed was now wide open again, with the world watching. The media, for its part, struggled to keep up. Some outlets took a cautious tone. Others went full throttle, publishing op-eds asking whether Camilla's reign should be reassessed. Palace officials, once confident in Camilla's acceptance, now quietly reviewed strategies, worried that silence could look like arrogance. In many ways, it no longer mattered what was said behind gilded doors, because the crowd outside had spoken, and their message was clear. Titles may be tradition, but they are no longer untouchable. What happens if Camilla's title is gone? If the whispers become official, and Camilla is stripped or quietly steps down from the queen consort title, everything changes. Not just in ceremony, but in structure, history, and succession. Technically, she would still be married to the king, but her standing in public engagements, her seating at state dinners, Even her title in official documents, all of it would shift. Some insiders speculate she'd return to being simply Princess Consort Camilla, a compromise title once discussed before the Queen's passing. But in royal circles, every word carries weight, and dropping Queen would signal a royal reversal unlike any in modern times. Beyond optics, the decision would raise questions about the future. Would other royals be re-evaluated? Could this open the door for Anne or Kate to rise in influence and ceremonial status? Might Charles quietly reduce Camilla's visibility, focusing instead on the heir and his wife? One thing is certain: the monarchy doesn't like unpredictability. Titles are more than names. They are anchors. And losing one, especially under pressure, would send a signal that even the crown must answer to public will. Tradition would bend. The lineage would remain. But the message to future generations would be clear. Legitimacy isn't given. It must be earned and protected. And once lost, even a queen's title may not return. A royal family at a crossroads. As this unprecedented drama reaches its climax, the monarchy stands on a tightrope, poised between the gravity of its traditions and the winds of societal change. In one corner stands Princess Anne and Princess Catherine, steadfast, loyal, yet quietly rebellious. In the other, Queen Camilla, struggling to hold her place as the foundation beneath her begins to crumble. And then there's King Charles, caught between love and legacy. His next move may define the monarchy for decades. But perhaps the most important voice isn't coming from inside the palace. It's coming from the people, the ones watching, judging, and deciding whether this institution still reflects their values. Because the question isn't just about one woman's title. It's about what the monarchy chooses to protect and what it's willing to change. Prince Harry's words cracked open the door. Anne and Kate walked through it. Now the entire system is being forced to confront itself. The monarchy has always survived by adapting, but slowly, carefully, on its own terms. This time, it may not have that luxury. This time, the clock is ticking. The people are watching, and the future of the crown is no longer about who wears it, but who deserves it. In this new age of accountability and visibility, Camilla's uncertain future is a symbol of a greater truth: that the crown is no longer immune to the forces shaping the world beyond its palace walls. Camilla's fall from royal grace isn't just about titles. It's a signal, a turning point in how the monarchy confronts its past and redefines its future. As Anne and Kate rise, and Harry's words echo across generations, one thing is certain: the crown must now answer to a changing world.